What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building.
I'm joined today with is it Sandhya,
Yes, perfect.
Seshadri,
Yep.
something like that? Yeah. Okay. I
Yes.
figured I'd go a spot.
Perfect.
I did read a little bit of Sanskrit, but I never had it as a course or anything. So it's just like what I've picked up here and there. But if this is your first chance encounter and you haven't seen one of these before, this is how it goes. I interview commercial real estate investors. I go through the 5 different motivations that I find that investors generally have for why they are continuing to pick up more properties, operate more properties and whatnot. And I say, which one's you? Then I go through the 6 different roles in a commercial real estate deal. And I say, which one's your core competency? But the reason I'm doing that is so that you know how to effectively communicate with people about the commercial real estate business. And it's very important to your success to communicate effectively. And the most important thing you can communicate is who you are. So Sandhya, could you please introduce yourself for the audience, please?
I'm Sandhya Seshadri based in Dallas, and I syndicate large apartment deals. I'm formerly an electrical engineer in the corporate America and then got a business degree, but now I'm completely into real estate and strictly Class B, Class C apartments in Dallas, 100 plus doors.
All right, beautiful. See, that is a punchy introduction. We actually covered like pretty much everything, so we'll see you later. All right, April. No, I'm kidding. All right. So we'll do the motivation piece by clicking this, and then I hit this, and I turn around and I hit that, and there it is. Okay. So why do you want part of an apartment complex is what I call the slide, and it's not necessarily. Sometimes we have other types of commercial real estate investors, but apartment complex gets the idea across. But I go through the motivations first because even if you're a beginner, you already know what your motivation is, but you won't necessarily know what the role is. So we go through motivations first. The first one is some people need to preserve their purchasing power. So if you're already relying on wealth and the cash flow that comes from it to make ends meet, then what you're looking to do is stave off inflation. So you need to keep on making acquisitions, or else inflation is going to be a party pooper. So that's the first motivation. The second one is my one, and I'm betting this is going to be yours as well, Sandhya, but it's trading time for wealth. So I also have a tech background in e-commerce, mass marketing, all the funnels and all that kind of fun stuff, and all the data related to taking payments online and mass marketing, emailing. But the problem with being a high salary earner or high wage earner is that you're paying more tax on what you get than any other way to get income. So it makes more sense if your real end goal is to build your wealth, then why are you, like waiting till after tax to shoo your cash into that form of wealth? And so what I'm doing is I'm pivoting into being on the GP team and working for equity. And then that way I'm trading my time for wealth. So that's the next reason. And the next one's the most popular one, which is fast tracking retirement. And there are a couple things that are implied when you say you're fast tracking retirement. One is that you've already started. Okay, so if you're in your early 20s, then it's like fast tracking your retirement. It's like, okay, well, it only implies the other part, which is that there's an end goal in sight. Some people, they just want to become, an accredited investor and then move someplace with a really, really low cost of living and just take it easy. That's always an option, but that's in contrast to the next group who they are so ambitious ambitious, they're going to keep hustling because they want to buy their entire hometown. They want to have, you know, the Lamborghini, the private jet, the whole 9 yards. And these guys are never going to quit. They're looking for generational wealth. So they don't want their great grandchildren to have a day job. That's basically the kind of level of ambition I'm talking about here. But that's also in contrast to the next group, which is some people pick a section of society. Maybe it's the environment, maybe it's animals, but they realize that they need to accumulate wealth to have the biggest social impact. So they end up getting these commercial properties to help other people and because of some other greater meaning of that sort. So for you, Sandhya, is what combination of those five describes you the best?
I think definitely the second point about the time versus wealth definitely resonates with me. I want to save on taxes, and I actually want to beat inflation and not depend on the stock market to build my wealth. And so like in the corporate world, all I ever did was put, automatically 10% of my income into some random retirement fund where I really didn't know what was going on with that whole mutual fund. And I was like, okay, 2025, 2050, whenever I retire, it's all going to be great, And so I wanted to stop doing that. The second motivation is the fact that, I came as an immigrant, and I think many of us have probably lived in an apartment first before buying our home. And I can see what a difference you can make to the community by improving it, focusing on what residents need while still being able to make money off of it, right? And providing amenities that make sense, right? You don't have to make a palace out of a C-class apartment, but you can maintain it neat, nice, tidy, attend to work orders, have some tenant activities, and make it nice. So I think it's a little of both. I'm not keen on getting a Ferrari because I'm also an asset manager and I drive to my properties a lot. And so I'm very conscious of what I drive. Right now, I drive like a 9-year-old car. And so unless it breaks down, I don't want to be seen driving fancy cars. I'll be worried about the door ding, etc. So if I really crave driving a fancy car, I think I would rent it for a few days, get it out of my system while on vacation or something. But then my everyday life, where I go to stores, I go to apartments, it's going to be normal mama car, I drive a Buick and I'm pretty happy with it.
That's so funny. Yeah. It makes you rethink the wisdom of showing up in a Bentley. It's not so.
What do you do, right? If you're going to country clubs and talking to high-end investors and that's what you do, it might make sense, right? But that's not what I do. I go to my properties. I'm hands-on, so I don't ever want to be seen in something too fancy.
All right, perfect. Yeah, that's a great segue into the next part, which is the different roles. So just so that we don't leave you in the dust if you don't know anything about commercial real estate, let's get some terms out here. So most of the time when you meet somebody who says I'm in commercial real estate, they're probably going to be a repositioner, which means that they're looking at a whole whack of different properties, and the only other essential thing is that they are definitely going to be underwriting the property, which is a fancy word, means doing the math. Okay, figuring out, does this business actually make sense? Are they actually making as much as they say they are, or are they lying? And the other thing that's on the repositioner's mind, though, is how do we get upside? And they have two different main ways of getting upside. One of them is through more efficient operations. So in other words, stopping that money from going down the toilet. And it also means from a marketing piece, which is one of my fortes, it's the leasing agents have to make sure that the vacancy rate stays low. So that's another way that you can get more money through operations or through different amenities. But that's often not enough in the current market. Real estate is so hot. So repositioners also will have to get a contractor team very often. So you have to make the units actually nicer so you can charge more in rent. More rent is upside. That means there's more money coming in than there was before. But one problem I'll run into is that I'm from the internet. And so that means if there's a problem at the property, Well, I don't even want to find my passport in an hour, so we need to have a local. We need boots on the ground, somebody to keep an eye on the place, make sure that operations aren't sloughing their photos that they're sending everybody in videos, making sure they're actually doing their jobs, making sure that the contractors aren't cutting any corners, making sure that they're actually keeping to their dates and commitments like that. But most people, if you're a tenant, you'll be looking at those four sides and thinking, okay, that's the owners. But of course, it's more complicated than that. You got to talk to the banks, you got to talk to the capital raisers, the financiers, okay? And, if the property's worth tens of millions of dollars, you say, hey, can you lend me tens of millions of dollars for buy this property, financier? And they'll say, okay, but that all checks out. But who's your sponsor? A lot of coaching programs, they kind of skip over that bit. But even if you're Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, and you want to buy a 350 or 1,500 unit apartment complex, the only way that you're going to get a loan to do that is if you have a sponsor or a KP who already owns a similar asset. Okay, so they have to already have that 350 unit or 1,500 unit or whatever it is before you'll be eligible for the loan. There's also going to have to be liquidity in there, ready for when it's happening, and then you also have to have a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But you put that all together, you've got a commercial real estate deal. So, Sandhya, what are your core competencies out of those different roles that you'd be most likely to bring to your next deal?
So my first deal, I was boots on the ground and I partnered with experienced sponsors. So now I can also do the KP sponsorship part of it because now I have been a GP on 5 deals. So I do both. I also raise capital from investors I know, but I cannot raise capital unless I underwrote the deal myself. And I focus on the market that I know, which is Dallas, where I've lived for over 30 years, 31 years actually. And so it's very important for me. I love math as an engineer. So underwriting is a big piece of it. And really the assumptions behind your underwriting, right? You could say, oh, I can get $100 rent bump. Is that reasonable? Did you shop the comps to justify that? What are you doing to get an extra $100? Is it already below the market in rent that you can just raise it? Are the market conditions favorable? So all of the assumptions that go into underwriting are just as important. And so the business plan is a big piece of it. And if I don't have that, there's no way I can go raise capital from investors with confidence. And then once I raise capital from investors and being the local, I cannot see myself being hands off on the asset management side. So I'm sort of in all the different places, but if I had to let go of a piece, I would say I'm okay with hiring or using someone else as the primary asset manager, with me still doing the checks and balances as the local boots on the ground. And then I don't need to be the primary key principal with the high net worth, because sometimes like the next property I'm buying is almost $30 million. My net worth is nowhere close to that. So I am getting someone else with that high net worth, but I've got the loan background, like with Fannie and Freddie both have got loans. So it's a little bit of all of it. So,
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
fantastic answer though too, because like honestly, I can tell the audience that usually if somebody says, "Oh, well, I'm kind of all of them," it's like, yeah, but you're also kind of not. So you're kind of looking for like where does it fall apart when that happens, and it's really great that it was really clear that you're still the real deal. But as far as properties go, you mentioned earlier about the unit count, but like as far as the segment and the order, I'm guessing some people have like formatted notepads for whenever they're watching these chance encounters. So the next one is the ideal property, or I call it the buy box. In other words, how can you describe the properties where it's easier to say yes, it's more difficult to say no? What's your ideal property that somebody can bring to you as far as unit count?
Phenomenal. Yeah, in terms of unit count strictly, it's 100 plus doors, only because property management companies don't like to manage at 50 doors. It's harder to get a good deal. They charge a high percentage. So whether it's 100 doors or 200 doors, I'm open to either. So I don't have a strict max number. It's more of the min number. And can I raise the capital if it's a really big deal, right? If it's 400 doors, I need to have somebody with the net worth, and I need enough of a team to raise the capital needed for it, because the maximum leverage I've seen so far is in bridge debt these days. In 2021, you get about 80% LTC and you get 100% of your rehab cost finance, but you still have to come up with a 20% on a $50 million deal. That's a lot of money. So I haven't done something that large yet. So in terms of the ideal deal, location is everything. For me, if you give me a zip code in Dallas, I could probably tell you in less than 2 minutes if I'm interested or not, and the street address. And the crime pocket is huge for me. The median household income is huge. So some people say, I'm not going to do anything 60s. Well, I have two 60s chiller properties that are like knocking it off the park kind of returns for investors and cash flowing and all of that. So I just plan a little extra money for the deferred maintenance if it's an older property. But I don't have a specific age of the property other than how it's maintained. Is there value that I can add to it to where the residents want to pay for this and my investors can make money off of it? So that's the sweet spot. But location, crime, enough value add left in it for me to come in and do something besides just saying, oh, I'll just bump it $50 and that's enough. You know, it's more of how do I reposition this property to really get a nice, strong value add out of it? And it has to be Dallas for me, only because I know the market and I want to hop in my car, drive to my property anytime I want without having to think about it. So like living in Dallas, Houston is 5 hours away. That's too far. It's got to be a solid, low crime, great neighborhood in Dallas.
All right, beautiful. That makes it all easy peasy. And one of the other things that I find is really amazing about commercial real estate in general is that people are so helpful. And it's because, you know, like you can be multiple sides of the die, but you're going to need people on all of the different sides of the die at any given time. So without enticing any investors, because that's against SEC regulations, okay, so no enticing investors, who are you best suited to help in the real estate business? Like, in other words, who's the best person who can get the most benefit out of reaching out to you? Can you describe them, like what their role would be? Or
yeah, if there's someone who is very high net worth, meaning they are not depending on this last $50,000 to make their ends meet, that they have enough of it. Like a lot of people have that in their retirement funds, as an example. That's the kind of person I want, who's not worried about the next 3 months, what happens to their 50K, but is able to look at it as real estate is illiquid. So it's 3 to 5 years is the horizon. So don't be just like looking at the stock market on a daily basis. That's just going to give you a heart attack, right? So don't worry about that. Have confidence. Do your research, do your homework, and be a very sophisticated investor when you come to me, or get the education, and I can refer you to many sources to get the education, because I don't want someone who's nervous on a daily basis. I didn't want someone who's nervous because we had a snowstorm in Dallas, and so I had 10 units down as an example, and I'm going to rehab them quickly because that's when I can get the revenue back. I don't want you to worry about it. I want you to ask questions, but not to a stress level where, you know, it's nail biting kind of stress. So that's a big one. And then the second people I can help is anyone who wants to be a syndicator, right? And they want to learn the business. I can refer you to mentoring programs, but I can also tell you, based on what you have to offer, what's your ideal GP scenario to become a sponsor.
Wow. Yeah, that's really fantastic. And the best way to reach out to you, you know, like we cross paths through some different LinkedIn meetups and that sort of thing. What's the best way to reach out to you? Is that, or is it through LinkedIn, or is it website, or what's the best way?
LinkedIn is great. My website is great. It's multifamilyforyou.com, where it's multifamily spelled out, number 4, and then YOU.com. And you can just put your name, email address, and a short message to me, and we can connect that way. And I'm available on LinkedIn as well.
All right, awesome. And I have one more thing to say for the people in the camera. So I'm like turning it blue so to show how serious I am, which is I need to tell you that under my hand, there's a button. And if it's red, it makes me sad. And if it's gray, it makes me happy. And all you have to do to turn it from red to gray is you click on the button, and that's it. It doesn't cost you anything. It's absolutely free. And what it means is that YouTube pays for this video instead of me. And that's better. So pretty please with sugar on top, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Okay. All it means is that these videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but you'd be doing me an enormous favor just by even subscribing. You don't have to watch any more videos. But Sandya, you've also done me an enormous favor by joining me today on this Chance Encounter. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's been a pleasure. This is awesome that you run such quick videos. It's great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.